I thought this was going away. That was gonna have your wife very angry with you.
No.
I was supposed to be really mad on her behalf.
Hello.
Hello.
So you had a big old smile right from the get-go.
Yeah, I'm laughing at you.
Why?
Because I was looking. Okay, so as per tradition, I must start the stream by complaining about something you've done. I'm looking at our YouTube page. I would pay you money to be consistent with whether or not you're going to capitalize titles or not.
Listen, I just copied what you put and just did it so I could have it done quick. I'm not breaking YouTube again.
Fair enough.
Because it's not all capitalized. It was all capitalized with the original title.
Oh, well, all right, fair enough.
Also, I wanna capitalize on something Emily said before when we were setting up. That she decided she wanted to be as cool as me instead of being lame, and is kind of copying me and wear hats.
My hat's cooler though because you can't really tell because my lighting's a little bright, but it's got a corgi on it.
Why not a cat?
Well, because I went to a store in South Korea and they had a corgi.
Okay, valid.
Also, what do you got against corgis?
Nothing. I'm just a cat guy. I love corgis, but I'm a cat dude.
I mean, you can be both. I'm always both. I'm a dog and a cat person, and I love my corgi. My little corgi cat.
I do love both. I had a dog. I had a Great Dane for a while. He had brain cancer. It was very sad, but I loved him.
That is very sad.
But also I've had great, cats most of my life, and I love those little guys, and now I can't have either, but it's okay. It happens. It's a valid reason. It's a valid reason why I can't have either.
It's a valid reason. I just don't know how people live without a dog or a cat.
I've done it somehow for the past 5 years. Yeah, it's been 5 years as of like a month, 2 months ago. Oh, that explains so much. Never mind.
Wait, take us down this path with you.
About what happened with my pets?
No, you just that explains so much. You got really dark and
Oh yeah, that's why my anxiety has spiked.
Because you haven't had pets for 5 years. I thought this was going away. That was gonna have your wife very angry with you.
No.
I was supposed to be really mad on her behalf.
No. I mean,
legitimately thought you were being oh man, I've been in a relationship for 5 years.
No.
That explains it.
What kind of person do you think I am?
I don't know, man, but I was gonna fight you.
Honestly, I thought you thought it was gonna go another way when you said that. Something about Springfield, Ohio. They're eating the dogs.
No, we're not gonna start it now. We simply can't. I
will say it is part of one news story, but it's very, very wholesome, lighthearted, not political. It just has to deal with a political figure. So I'm gonna leave with that. For our first news story, potential future Vice President Tim Walz is a gamer. Specifically, that man is obsessed with the Sega Dreamcast and only plays the Sega Dreamcast and has only played it since 1999.
Good for him.
That is a based opinion, and it's valid, very valid.
Tim Walz.
His wife had to take away his Dreamcast so he could focus.
Another reason to vote for him. As though he wasn't already getting my vote.
What a good dude. That being said, we will not delve into politics because that's just a dark path that I don't think we're ready for.
Okay, if you live in the United States, make sure you're registered to vote.
Yes, we will say that much.
Coming up, go to vote.org, register to vote, and go vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for.
I thought it was vote.gov.
Is it vote.gov?
I don't know. It's something. It's what there's so many ways to lead you to the same place. So guarantee you it probably still exists. Yeah, that's the lighthearted. But now we'll go into our first.
It is vote.org.
It is vote.org? Okay. I mean,
It might also be a vote.gov.
I just did it whenever I got my new license. When I moved
There's also a vote.gov. So you know what? Pick whatever one. It's going to help you get registered to vote.
Oh, no. Yeah, we'll jump.
We're in like allergy season. My allergies are so bad.
Dude, I've had sinus headaches all like for the past week and a half, and I think it's because it's been storming nonstop.
Well, it's terrible.
Oh, I guess it's very important to note why we're late on posting this to YouTube and streaming this. Where I'm from, I will not out myself. There was a hurricane that hit
Louisiana.
Yeah, that's vague enough because it did hit pretty much the entire south section of it.
I'm wearing a shirt that says Michigan State University.
She lives in Iowa, guys.
No worries.
Yeah, a hurricane came and it hit, and we essentially just like making sure that me and my wife were prepped. We decided not to stream on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then yesterday Emily had some prior obligations that made us push back again. So apologies mainly on my end. Blame the Gulf of Mexico. Blame Francine. DW was always right about Francine and Arthur. She's a no good menace. And this proves it.
That was this hurricane's name was Francine.
It was Francine.
I'm never up on it. I'm never up on the fun hurricane names, except for when it was Emily.
They're always like, one, I feel like they're almost all female names.
They are. It's the point.
Well, I know the big one before Katrina was Andrew, and that's a boy's name. That was 1992. Hurricane Andrew hit.
Oh, I thought they were supposed to be all female names.
No, because we've had Hurricane Andrew before. Unless you want to name your daughter Andrew. I mean, I guess I'm not judging. I don't know. Katrina hit. Right after that, Rita hit. Ida hit a few years ago. Francine hit this year. Though we also got hit by Isaac back in like 2013. Yeah. I don't know how
but they didn't start using male names until 1978. Prior, it was all female names. This feels sexist.
It kind of does. I'm not gonna lie. I do know.
Along with the like naming all ships after women, but women weren't like allowed on pirate ships.
Yeah. I know how they do hurricanes. Like they have a cycle of each letter, and then like the first hurricane hit is Hurricane A, then you have Hurricane B. So we got to F. The fact that we're at F and it's this late in the season is actually means we didn't have that much disturbances, which is usually that's pretty good thing. We have another thing brewing in the Atlantic right now, but because it's already a tropical storm, most likely it's going to cycle like become a fish storm and go north and not even matter.
A fish storm?
Yeah, fish storm meaning it's just going to go into the Atlantic and fizzle out in the Atlantic Ocean and not do anything. Not hit anybody.
I've never heard that phrase before.
Yeah, it's just called a fish storm. It's going to devastate many millions of fishes' homes, aka it's going to do absolutely nothing.
Oh, interesting. The more you know.
I need that sound now on my board. Dun, 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 dun. Cool. I'm gonna kind of out you. You went right back to Star Wars Outlaws. I saw.
I sure did. I beat Astrobot, Platinum Astrobot, and then I said, well, that was that, and then I closed it out and immediately reopened Star Wars Outlaws.
I saw that because I was like, you told me you beat. Well, we'll get into like the secret after, but you told me you beat that thing, and then I was on PSN profiles because I check it like weekly, and I'm like, I haven't checked Emily's in a while, and I saw that you platinum it, and then I said top of your list, Star Wars Outlaw, last trophy was Star Wars Outlaw. I'm like, yep.
Yeah, I got a couple of trophies in Star Wars Outlaws last night. I'm still like working my way through it. I do, I like really like if you watched my review was that last week?
That was last week. It was over a week ago now, but.
If you watch our review from last week, you'll find out I really love Star Wars. And I kind of binged through a lot of it for review purposes. But now that I'm done with the review, I am still playing through it. I'm still working through it.
I need to put an asterisk on this. She really loves Star Wars Outlaws, not just Star Wars. She's barely seen any Star Wars.
I shouldn't say that. I actually don't love Star Wars.
I'm about to say, I'm like...
I really love Star Wars Outlaws. Um,
Oh no.
so yeah, that's what I'm playing right now. I've mostly been playing Astrobot for the last week, in order to prepare with this review we're doing today. But I have hopped back to Star Wars. I played Dreamlight Valley for like a minute, but guys, I'm on Dreamlight break.
I purchased Astrobot on Friday, same as most other people, and it was platinum by Monday morning. If that tells you anything. But we'll get to that review later. I did start, and this game's been on my shelf as I ordered this on Amazon when I first got my PS5, just because I was trying to feel out my library. There wasn't much out, and there was this game called Spirit of the North, which is done by a very small indie company. It's not an indie game because the publisher is a massive publisher. But it was a game developed by two people, just two dudes out of North Carolina. It's a little messy. You can tell that it just two people developed it, but they did a good job. Their main goal of their studio is not to make games. It's made to make assets for other game studios, but they wanted to like create this to show off this is what we can do and what we can create for you. And I think they did a pretty good job for like a 4-hour game, or an 8-hour platinum, which I need to go continue to finish. It's not bad. It was enjoyable.
Forgive a lot. I can forgive a lot when it's coming from a studio of like two people made in a certain amount of time. I know there's a lot of like indie horror games where they'll be like, "Oh, I made this for a game jam, so I made it in under 24 hours, and I made it all by myself." And you're like, "Okay, you know what?" Then I know exactly what. And you're like paying $2 for it. So unless it's like a $70 game, or like even a $50 game, I can forgive a lot when I'm like, two dudes out of North Carolina made this. Good for you.
I think the biggest bug I encountered, this is when I was streaming it last week, earlier this week, sorry, was for some reason I get to one area. There, like in specific sections, your controller is supposed to vibrate when you approach something. Well, it did the vibrate thing on like chapter 5 or chapter 3, but for some reason it didn't stop. And it just vibrated the entire way through until I reset the game.
That would drive me nuts.
Oh
but
it did.
Two dudes out of North Carolina, man.
It was very funny. It was definitely a weird glitch for the PS5 version, but it's all right. I'm gonna go back to the Forspoken after this, right before Echoes of Wisdom comes out on the 26th.
Consider this. Go to a different game. That's Star Wars Outlaws.
I'm not paying $70 for Star Wars Outlaws. You just give me your copy when I come visit you in a few months.
And two people, when I get a physical copy, two people have already put a claim on it.
Yeah, but I'm more important. So
you just told me you're not gonna play it properly. So
no. I didn't say that. I said I'm not paying $70 for it. Huge difference.
Well, I have a friend who the moment I put it in her hands is going to eat it up. I know that for a fact. I know this friend so well. I know when I put this in her hands, she's gonna eat it up.
Fair enough. Valid.
But yeah, I probably won't buy a physical edition for a while because I did just spend the money to get the digital. I wish I just bought a physical. But quite honestly, when it came out, I was seeing a lot of like the down reviews. People were down on it, so I was like, whatever. So I just bought the digital, and then, well, who knew it would be one of my favorite games of the year?
Still should have went physical. Still should have went. You would have had an easier time finding that though than you did finding Astrobot, which that still shocks me that you had such a hard time finding Astrobot.
Yeah, it was sold out pretty much everywhere. So what are you playing right now? Oh, you just told us.
Yeah. We just went over that. I will say this. I have no hot takes this week.
I just had a hot take a minute ago that I thought of.
No, I have one. You know what? I'll say this and I'll let you do yours while you're remembering it. An indie game should have more wiggle room for Game of the Year than they currently do. I don't feel like enough indie games get nominated for Game of the Year, and we need more indie games nominated for Game of the Year.
I agree.
Celeste should have been nominated for Game of the Year, and not just Games for Impact. Thank you.
My hot take of the week. I don't know if this is really a hot take because I can't even really have an opinion on this because I haven't played the game yet. I'm actually not that pumped for Echoes of Wisdom.
I agree to an extent. Like, I'm excited it's a new Zelda game, but at the same time, I'm not as excited as I was for Astrobot. I'm not as excited as I am for Mario Party.
I'm super into the concept it's pitching of like cloning echoes and using other things to fight for you. I don't know if I'm gonna be a big fan of like the art style personally, and like just quite frankly, the last few Nintendo games I've played have been really not great in terms of story, other than of course the remake for A Thousand Year Door. So I'm a little nervous of what Nintendo's gonna offer story-wise, so I don't know.
This is going to be your first step into 2D Zelda, technically too. I know it's technically in 3D, but it's considered 2D because it's top-down Zelda. It's not like turn your camera 3D aspect.
Really 2D? It's definitely a 3D game.
No, yes, okay. So there's 2D and there's 3D. This is technically 2.5D, right? It's running in a 2D space, as in you're on a tile block, you go to another area, it shifts to that other area. Kind of like how Link's Awakening works in Link to the Past. So it's 2.5D, but the actual assets are in 3D, right? So it's
I wouldn't call it a game.
they call it 2.5D. This is also works for isometric. I'm cheating. I'm reading off chat, but yeah, that's another way to put it, is isometric. The original Zelda games, with the exception of Zelda of of the Adventures of Link, the Legend of Zelda 2: Link's Adventure, or whatever it's called, that's the only one that's like weird the way they did it. But the other 2D Zelda games are pretty much in isometrics. Same with Four Swords Adventure, Link to the Past, original Legend of Zelda. I enjoy them. And if it's going to be anything like Link's Awakening, I know I'm going to enjoy it, but still, it's not going to like hype me up. I'm not going to be like, oh my goodness, I'm so stoked for this. I'm going to play it. I know I'm going to like it, but I'm not going to like be super stoked into it.
I think it really depends. I'm like really unsure of what it's going to offer. And if it does bring a really good story to the table, I think I could really be here for it. But I'm like, we're entering, I mean, this is the next big game release on our docket. And we're coming from, for me personally, I know this was not a case for everyone, coming off of Star Wars Outlaws, which for me had a phenomenal story, and I'm still enjoying the story. I'm not done with it yet. Astrobot, which we'll talk about more, while platformer, I think was really emotional at points.
She called me. We'll talk about that later.
Quite frankly. So like like I mentioned in my Star Wars review, if you watched that from last week, it had been such a long time since I had played a single player story game that had such a good story that I was really intrigued with it again. And so I've been really excited to be back on that path with playing stories that have games that have really good story impact for me. And so I think I'm nervous to go back to Zelda and be let down again looking at Tears of the Kingdom story. And Mario Odyssey, and so I'm nervous that it's not going to bring me anything good. So we'll see. Yes,
you're cheating now too.
Listen, I gotta appreciate the hat comment. I love my little corgi hat.
Listen,
it's adorable.
We talked about this before too. This is the second hat gang comment we've gotten today, so we'll take it.
We gotta respect the hats, man. I gotta start buying. I have a few hats, but like this is my favorite, my little corgi.
I would pull all my hats, but they're all on a thing, and that would take effort. But I have like 12 or 13 dad hats.
Yeah, I compete with you. That's like asking you to compete with the number of sweaters I own. It's just not reasonable.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
So
that's not.
I'll let you be the king of the hats, but I thought I could rep tonight.
First, we already talked about our first news story. Tim Walz is a big Dreamcast guy. Love that for him. Valid as hell.
What do you even play on the Dreamcast?
Sonic Adventure 2, Jet Set Radio.
Okay. I love that for him.
I don't know what he plays, but like,
I know he's been in every single one of those games like 30 times, and then it's constantly
the thing you have to know about the Dreamcast only was on store shelves for 2 years before that was like Sega's like, we're done. Like,
I mean, that's what I mean, right? Like, there's nothing for it. So you just know, like, if this is what he's in love with and is only playing the Dreamcast, that he's just cycling through like the two games repeatedly over and over.
He's playing Jet Set Radio nonstop. He's got to be a Jet Set Radio guy.
I don't even know what that is.
Think like Tony Hawk, but very flashy.
All right,
like with like objectives. The second massive news story. Sony announced on Tuesday their PlayStation 5 Pro, which is $700.
$700 does not come with a disc drive.
No, it can take a disc drive, but you have to buy that separately for $50 to $100.
It doesn't come with a stand.
And it doesn't come with a stand, though it says it doesn't need it. That's
Okay, let me
ridiculous.
be the judge of that, though. Let me decide whether my PlayStation that I paid $700 for needs a stand. Thank you.
I agree. 1,000% agree. I think this is the biggest like L Sony has taken about this. So when you got your PS5, at least when I got mine, because I got mine relatively early, on the
Yeah,
box,
you got you first.
yeah, they had on the box they had an 8K symbol, meaning it can play up to 8K resolution. Though you probably don't want to because it was going to be weak. They started taking that off the box because no games natively supported it, and they really never pushed for it. And most people don't have an 8K TV. And now they're saying, well, this console can finally do 8K. It's like, okay, so you were lying to us on the base model PS5?
You're a liar? PlayStation would do that? Put lies on the box?
Crazy. I'm a PlayStation fanboy. This is their biggest L. Other than Concord, this is a big L.
I wonder if they like timed this to be like, okay, Astrobot just came out. People are calling it Game of the Year. Now I hit him with the $700.
It was nobody is excited about this release. Nobody is. Now some people have made valid points. They're like, try to build a PC that can do up to 8K and all that, or even 4K 60 FPS, which the PS5 Pro can do. You are not going to be spending, huh?
I said sure.
Yeah. If you build a PC that can handle that, you're going to be spending well over $700. Valid point. However, you're more limited on a console than you are on a PC as to games availability and all that.
Absolutely. Also, I think it's important to note that in the trailer for this, or like the whatever promotional content they did for the PS5 Pro, the games that they were showing off on it were PS4 titles, which I think adds to this when you remember that the PS5 many exclusive and not many like mainline PS5 games. That like you need to now have a PS5 Pro to play those better, right? Like people are using this for Grand Theft Auto. Like, what are we doing? It does not need to be $700, especially like quite honestly, PlayStation. My PlayStation 5 were at 5. Well, I would say it's working just fine. It's had its moment in the last week or so, but it's probably coming out next year. And probably in like 3 years, you're going to release the PS6. So why would I do that?
Yeah, they know it's for a niche market. They're not going to make many of them. And the big thing to note is essentially like, here's the big thing with Sony, and this is what happened with the PS4. When the PS4 launched, it didn't have. I remember like around this time when the PS4 Pro launched, that's when all the big releases happened. That's when you got Horizon. That's when you got God of War 2018. That's when you got Spider-Man, etc.
Yeah.
I think Sony's doing that not on purpose, but again, where like next year and on is when we're going to see those massive Sony releases in succession all at once, which is it's a little late. Where Nintendo just goes right out the gate. They're like, "Oh, you want Zelda? Bam! You want Mario? Got him!" And then at the end, it kind of is like tapering off.
Hey, Nintendo, where's my Animal Crossing game? Where's my next Animal Crossing game?
Where's I'm about to say, like, we're asking for Animal Crossing.
Time is ticking. For those of you who aren't aware, I told Nintendo on my birthday, July 19th, that I needed to have Wind Waker for Switch in my hands by the end of the year. Okay, so we're okay, hold on, let me check. Hold on 1 second. How many days till July 19?
She said end of the year, not until her next birthday.
309 days.
Granted, we might be getting another direct later this month for the announcement of whatever the successor is. That's what's in the room.
Does not matter. I told them they have 1 year for this.
No, you told them till the end of the year, so they have less time.
I don't think that's what I said.
I thought you said end of the year.
Hold on. I might have just said that now. I don't remember what I posted. What did I post? If I don't have Wind Waker for Switch in my hands by 29.
Oh, okay. Valid.
By my next birthday.
I forgot you're a baby.
They have 309 days to deliver this to me, or it's on site.
The
next time I go to Japan, which will hopefully be next year, we're gonna have words, very strong, very vocal words.
That means they're very behind for me, because I'm going on 32 in a few months. God help me.
Oh, you're so elderly.
I am. I'm an old man.
I'm so young and spry over here.
Shut the. Nope. Holding it in.
Young, fresh,
Cool. Last
My
big news.
back doesn't hurt all the time. My neck is good.
That is a problem for actually it's been my head. I've had a headache like nonstop for like 2 weeks because of the hurricane and the pressure and I want to die. I'm gonna die.
I'm very sorry. Do you want me to get Allison to like slip something into your drink and so you can just like go to
That's
sleep?
called drugging and we do not condone that here. Hold on.
You did just say you wanted to die repeatedly. I don't know what to, okay. Let's talk about the game.
No, we got one more news story.
Okay, we're almost halfway through this podcast and we haven't talked about
I know. Annapurna, big, relative sized game studio, creators of Stray, The Outer Wilds, couple other things that did very, very well. All their employees just up and quit, except for the owner, because there was a dispute with the owner trying to separate it from the parent company. The parent company, whose owner is like a billionaire, and Annapurna's interactive CEO makes a bunch of money. They're like, hey, all we want to do, you can still own us, like you can still own it, but we want to be separate from the Annapurna brand and just have our own name. And just like, you own us, but we're separate. Like, we're not part of Annapurna, which is not a hard request. And other companies that successfully did that, Toys for Bob, which was under Activision Blizzard, did separate from Microsoft after the acquisition with the same request. Like, pretty much like, hey, you still get some of the money, but we're our own thing now. That's all these employees wanted. Something fell through. And after it officially fell through, there's a massive argument with the owner, and they're pretty much like, all right, you lose everybody. There is not a single person left. Accountants, developers, artists, they're all gone. And that is huge. Stray,
it's a rough year for like people in the games industry in terms of like layoffs and acquisitions. Like, fuck that. I'm proud of them. Good for them.
Yep, same. Stray was my game of the year 2022. And I know people love the Outer Wilds, even though I've never touched it. I know the Outer Wilds is very, very popular. But yeah, no, I can't wait to see what they create and what studio they become in the future. Hopefully they get the money backing it. That's it for that story.
Let's talk about our main boy of the week.
Yep. Can I give some backs?
I think we're both a little in love, but I think you probably more than me.
Yeah, I got to give some little backstory of why this was a very special release for me.
Yeah, do it.
Talking about how old I am. I grew up in the PS2 era. My first at-home console that I ever owned was a PlayStation 2. With that, I got games such as Jak and Daxter. I got Sly Cooper. Obviously, I got Kingdom Hearts, but that's not part of this conversation.
But did you have American Idol?
No, I didn't.
Like real gamers?
Get out.
Or were you a fake fan? Did you sing I'm a Genie in a Bottle to Simon Cowell on your PS2? If not, then I wouldn't say you're a true gamer.
Why did you hire me for this then?
I don't know, man.
Moral of the story is my upbringing was 3D platformers on the PlayStation 2. Mainly Jak and Daxter and Sly Cooper were huge names. Ratchet and Clank, huge names in things that I really loved and what I thought were super creative and just fun in the PS2. And that's why I fell in love with 3D platformers. I fell in love with Mario not long after that, Super Mario Sunshine on the GameCube being my favorite 3D Mario. Actually favorite 3D platformer for a while of all time. And then PlayStation's like, we haven't done this in a while. We haven't let one of our studios do this in a while. Because Jak and Daxter is by now Naughty Dog, which is owned by Sony. Sly Cooper is done by Sucker Punch, which is owned by Sony, who did Ghost of Tsushima. And so they're like, all right, Team Asobi, Astro's Playroom did great as just a tech demo. Let's start with
a little bit of the history on Astrobot itself.
Oh, yeah.
And why. Because there's been like 3 Astrobot games before this, too.
Kind of. There's technically been 2 Astrobot games before this, but he's appeared 3 separate times. You're right. So when the PlayStation 4 released, it just like Astro's Playroom on the PS5, they had this thing called Playroom, which was the tech demo thing for the PS4 that came. I never used it. I never knew what it was for.
I didn't know it existed.
I saw it was there, but I never touched it. And so apparently Astro was there and he did a whole bunch of mini games as a tech demo for the PS4. It didn't do well, mainly because it was just demos. It was just not demos. It was just mini games. People really didn't care that much. It didn't really blow up. Whatever, no big deal. PSVR comes out. They do something similar, like a VR playroom. I don't remember what it's called, but there's another thing of Astro in mini games.
It was Astro's Rescue Mission.
That's not it. That's after this. This was a separate
Oh,
thing. Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, more mini games. Team Asobi was then tasked like, hey, let's make a game for VR. So they made a 3D platformer VR game called Astro's Rescue Mission. Astrobot's Rescue Mission. Obviously did not do a lot of sales because a lot of people didn't have PSVR. A lot of people still don't have PSVR. I kind of want it now.
Anyone who owns a PSVR.
Exactly. Like, it didn't like explode. But that's where he got his start. People who played the game loved the game, but it didn't really ever blow up. So Team Asobi wasn't done, obviously. And Sony's like, hey, we're releasing this new console. We need another tech demo type thing for the PlayStation 5. They're like, hold my beer. I got you. And so they created another platforming Astrobot game, this time Astro's Playroom, instead of doing mini games. And that blew up on PlayStation's launch. It was it still is a free, only about 2 to 3 hour game. Couple levels that show you what the PlayStation 5 can do and how the controller feels and all that. And aside from all the tech demo stuff, as a game itself, it was incredible. It was just
so much fun. And the fact that it was free was even better. Because, I mean, I remember opening my PS5 the first day I got it, turning it on, and Astro's Playroom was right there. And I was like, okay, well, let's test it out. And having so much fun with that game.
We talked about it. We both they gave it a platinum trophy, and we both did it relatively quickly. It's not, once again, it's not very long. It's not hard. No. It's not long. But it was a good time. And because of that reception, I think Team Asobi finally got that green light they needed to create this Astrobot game. Because Astrobot was more than just his own little thing. Astrobot was essentially what Sony has been trying to do for so long with Crash Bandicoot initially, then with Jak and Daxter and Sly Cooper on the PS2, and then with Knack on the PS4, I guess. They've been trying to have this mascot that has never really stuck, and Astrobot finally became that mascot that stuck. So Astrobot's not just Astrobot. Astrobot is the PlayStation mascot at this point. And I don't think that will ever change anymore. I think they're finally got their mind.
And for the record, for anyone who hasn't played, the entire game, as fabulous as this game we're about to talk about is, this game, Astro's Playroom, and every game before it is one giant marketing thing for the PlayStation. There's no doubt about it. Not only is it so cool with Sony IP, but the whole time you're flying on a PlayStation controller, you're a little PlayStation dude, you're building a PlayStation, and the PlayStation exists as this giant tower in the middle that all of the little bots,
it's your spaceship
around. It's a weird little religion of some kind where they're all just and then you collect all the little pieces and they all sing together. It is very this isn't even an IP where you're oh, this is the game everyone knows PlayStation 4 best. It is just this really good IP that stands alone now, but is worshiping what PlayStation is and what PlayStation has done.
And it shows the good, the bad, and the it shows off even things that people didn't necessarily like, and just is wait, we're still celebrating that this is a thing, right?
Yeah.
Normally we first talk about story. There's really not much because it's a 3D platformer. It's a game where you're flying in your PlayStation 5 ship, an alien steals your CPU, and all of the other parts get scattered around, and you just got to get them, going to different worlds and save any bots that got lost along the way.
Yeah, so there's 300 bots in the game, and the main goal of the game is, yes, to complete the worlds, but also save the bots. I would equate the bots to, if we're talking a Mario, where we would equate the bots to a star.
Yeah.
Or if we're talking Odyssey, a moonstone, whatever. And each of the bots, there's a handful of generic bots that just look like Astrobot kind of. But several of the bots that you'll save throughout the game are based off of and inspired by PlayStation IP. And just third-party games that really made it on PlayStation that got their break on. So there's Leon S. Kennedy and Claire and Jill and Chris from Resident Evil. There's Ghost from Ghost of Tsushima. There's the Detroit Become Human guy. There's 10 characters from Uncharted, God of War, Lara Croft, Yakuza.
I
Bunch of
mean,
David Cage games.
I
There's
mean,
just a whole
you also got your Ratchet and Clank, you got your Sly Cooper, you got your Jack and Daxter, you got your. This is the most surprising was Crash Bandicoot, and not because it should be. Here's the thing, the funny thing with Crash Bandicoot right now, because Crash Bandicoot was the original PlayStation mascot from the PS1.
yeah.
Everyone knows that. He was owned by Activision. Is owned by Microsoft now. Microsoft owns Crash Bandicoot. And
They said, pry him out of our dead hand.
essentially, I watched an interview on this. They actually went to every studio that owns the IPs and asked if they can use the characters. And so, like, yeah, Activision's like, okay, we understand the history here. Pay us a tiny bit, whatever. You can use him, and I get that. Like, I don't know if they even asked to say you can pay for this. I don't even know if that was a thing. Like, but they let him use Crash.
They also had the Last of Us characters.
Yeah, because that's Naughty Dog.
Yeah, yeah. They had a lot. There was a lot.
Oh, we lost her.
Who you are. I swear I saved like 50 vampire castle characters of some kind.
Castlevania.
No, I like some of them might have been Castlevania, but I swear there were just like in several different levels. I was saving like someone that was referencing a vampire of some kind. I don't know. There was a lot.
There was a lot of games I've never even heard of, but I made me like, oh, I'm interested. I looked up who the character was, and then I looked up what the game was, tried to learn more about it. So I'm like, is this something I want to play? Because I'm like, okay, this is something that used to be here. Maybe I want to try it. Legend of Dragoon is like one of the biggest JRPGs on PlayStation. I've still never played it, and they added a character from that.
They have Persona 5 and Persona 4.
And 3.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They have all 3 of them.
Right. Yeah, they had a lot of really good games on there.
It goes deeper though.
My only complaint, this isn't even like a real complaint. I can't truly complain about it. It was just personal preference. All like the games they picked. So like there's like 5. Okay, so back to like the main core of the game. You're going through these galaxies and you're saving the bots and getting the PlayStation components to put back together. There's 5 main galaxies that you go to. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the galaxy, you beat a boss. And then once you beat the boss, one bot is released to you, and that is like a bot from a main PlayStation IP. And the next level that you go to is going to be an entire level based around this PlayStation game. So there's a Horizon Zero Dawn one, there's an Uncharted one, there's a God of War one. There's like, I still don't know what that one with the little dudes is, the like little colorful orbs.
Wait, the little dude with the colorful orbs.
The little, like, colorful orb dudes, where you had to, like, tilt the controller.
Oh, Loco Roco. Loco Roco.
I don't know what that is.
It is an old PSP / like, I think it was on the PS4 game where you are rolling around. It is a rolly game. It is very popular. I know more than I should.
They were all very fun. They just, like, didn't fit my personal preference of what I would have. I really wanted, like, a Resident Evil level where you have to, like, be sneaky a little. Maybe, like, you're in the police station and there's like zombies and you have to be sneaky, or like something like that with The Last of Us. I thought that would have been pretty fun, but
so
that's just preference.
What I realized this today when this was not even looking things up, was just thinking about it. Each of the worlds was one of the 5 major Sony branches. So first one was Ape Escape. I don't remember who owns them. I think that's just Sony Interactive. Then you had the second one, which was the second one God of War. It was God of War was the second one. And that's Sony Santa Monica. Then you had Uncharted after that. Uncharted. That was third. Third one was Uncharted, which is Naughty Dog. Fourth, Loco Roco. I don't remember who owns them. Fifth was Horizon. Oh yeah, Horizon, which is Guerrilla. They picked all their like major studios and just like said, you each get one. This is what I liked about how they did specifically Naughty Dogs, which is The Last of Us and Uncharted and Jack and Daxter. I didn't see a lot of The Last of Us in their level, but specifically it was an Uncharted level. But one of the trophies was to find 3 eggs in that level. Those 3 eggs are precursor orbs which are the coins in Jack and Daxter. And that was like called back to that. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I know exactly what that is. Like they didn't just like hide things based off what the world you're in. They really like thought out like what else has this studio done and how can we expand on it. There are so many hidden Easter eggs around and so many things for you to find and really think about that are really, really cool. The God of War level, apparently ravens are a big thing in God of War. I wouldn't know, I haven't played it, but that's a big thing, and they had you find all 7 ravens in
Yeah.
God of War.
I think that's just like a Norse mythology thing.
It might
Ravens.
be. It might have, which makes sense because the new God of Wars are Norse mythology. Uh, One of the weird ones that I don't understand, and I'm sure there's a deep meaning behind it, and someone in the chat mentioned this land specifically. The Metal Gear Solid characters were in Creamy Canyon, which is like an ice cream ice type level. I don't understand it.
Finally understand what this comment in chat means. You like commented on. I could not fathom. I literally thought
It's the second level.
I literally thought gibberish was being spoken. I was like, this must be some like brother language that I just simply can't translate or comprehend.
I showed him the
I'll have to
trailer.
ask about it later. I don't get it.
And now it makes sense. Oh
It
no.
makes so much more sense now. Creamy mean. Why is he saying creamy and then canyon? Could not fathom it. So thank you for connecting those two dots for me. Could not comprehend.
Other than Easter eggs, there were 2 other types of collectibles. There were puzzle pieces that once you completed a puzzle, you got a new thing in your hub world, which this is the first 3D platformer that has like had a real hub world in so long for me. The last one I can remember is Mario Galaxy.
Wait, remember one of my biggest complaints of Mario not having a freaking hub world?
Because it doesn't. Mario Odyssey does not have a hub world.
And it's why it's such a bad game.
It's not a bad game, but whatever. Now, like every time you finish those, something builds in your hub world. There's different areas in your hub worlds too, where you can discover things there, which is really cool. Like depending on how many bots you've gotten. And in the interview I watched,
Mario Odyssey should have had it so you could unlock things. In, like the ship should have been larger.
Oh,
you should have
agreed.
been able to find Toadette and then like have Toadette be in your ship, and then Toadette can help you be like, oh, we saw this person on this island. You should go check that out. We can't talk about Mario Odyssey.
we already did that review weeks ago. You had your chance.
Because everything about this platformer, because I will be one of the first people to look at you and say I'm not someone who enjoys a platformer.
Can confirm.
I love this platformer. This is probably my favorite platformer I've ever played. And literally like you said, like maybe 5-10 minutes ago, we can't really talk about story because there's not really a story here. And that's true, but why did I find myself crying at
calling me crying specifically?
Yeah, it was like 1 a.m. for me, and I finished the game and was like crying, and I called Blake up and I was like, what is happening?
She said, say psych. We're not going to say why unless you haven't finished it, but she said, say psych right now. And I had to say, wait.
I'm like, sit and think about it, right? Because there truly is no more story to this game than there is to a Mario Odyssey or, any other platform. So why did this have such a pull with me that I cried at the end of it? And I realized it's because, and there's probably other elements at play, just for the fact that I enjoyed the game in comparison to Mario Odyssey, where I just didn't enjoy it. Like, you're not going to be as invested in it. But I think there's something truly to be said here that instead of collecting something like moonstones or stars, which have no kind of impact on you whatsoever, you're collecting PlayStation IP and like games and characters from games that you have loved and cherished. The Last of Us characters, the Resident Evil characters, even the David Cage characters from Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Become Human. All those characters that you love and enjoy, and you get to get them their little, like, you can go to the gacha machine and get them their little thing that they interact with. So for, like, example, Connor from Detroit Become Human, you get, like, a little fish tank, and he can put the fish back in the fish tank, like he does in the game. And they're supposed to be, like, these sentient beings, so you go through this whole game saving them and collecting them and building this kind of world for them, and putting all this effort into finding every single one of them, right? Because you're so invested that all the little buddies have to come back to the ship and get back on the PlayStation 5. And then at the end of it, and this is where we're heading into spoiler territory, so if you don't want spoilers,
turn it off so you hear nothing unless you don't care. Okay.
It's a spoiler review, man. you fight the main boss, and you're being pulled away by the main boss. And this is something that you can do throughout the game in the hub world. You can call the astrobots the little bots that you've saved to like build towers for you to climb, and etc. to like help you get more items and whatnot. All of the little bots build a tower to like reach out to Astrobot to try to save him. And that's so much more impactful because you're like, I have put so much energy and effort over the last however many days to save all of you, and now you're trying to save it back. And that is so, and it's like PlayStation and games that you love, these characters that you love outside of Astrobot, who you've now saved inside of Astrobot, trying to save you back. And that is has so much more of an emotional pull than being like, I'm Mario, and I'm here to stop Peach from marrying Bowser again. I got the soup. Don't worry.
It goes deeper than that, though. Like, you got to think about the level itself. The whole level is these PlayStation IP riding on PlayStation 2s and PlayStation Vitas and PSPs and PS3s and PS1s. They're like showing like, this is what we were on, and we're helping out. And like, it was a big. The ending was incredible.
It's a effort to like that, like you mentioned, it's all the old PlayStation consoles, it's the old controllers, it's all the bots that you've saved all coming together to go out and do this. And that just has so much more of a pull than I think any Mario platformer has made, other than the end scene in Mario Galaxy where all the Lumas sacrifice themselves.
Yeah,
that has more of an emotional pull than like I think anything Nintendo has done in a long time. And we'll talk about that more next week, but like it was really refreshing to have a platformer that actually made me have some emotions about it.
Now we have a few more things to cover, at least that I have on my docket about what this thing provided. First and foremost, they also the last collectible were secret exits. Not every single level had one. 2 levels per world had one, so you have about 10 secret exits, which created more secret worlds. And this is not a new concept. This has been a thing since Super Mario World, back on the SNES. But the creator himself, because I watched this rapid fire question thing with him, is like, what gave you your inspiration? And it was Super Mario Galaxy. And you can tell, like, after I heard that and I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, this is very similar to Super Mario Galaxy, but better than Super Mario Galaxy in like every single way.
On par. I mean, like, I still love Super Mario Galaxy, and that is, up until now, before Astrobot, Super Mario Galaxy has been my pinnacle.
We lost her. We lost her to the void. We lost her to the galaxy. Is she gone?
I think I cut out there.
Wait. Yep, you're back. You're back.
What was the last thing you heard me say?
Super Mario Galaxy was the pinnacle blank.
Oh yeah, Super Mario Galaxy was like my pinnacle game for this is a platformer with a good story and a good like game system that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and you could tell the comparisons. The final level. Well, I guess I should bring this up. There are challenge levels, just like in a Mario game. Like, you have your normal levels. They created challenge levels that are no checkpoint, one-time sprints through that take a lot of effort. And that's not a new concept. Mario's been doing it forever, but they feel so much more fun and more impactful.
They do. And there were a couple I did where I got them first try, and I felt so good.
Like, they were... Even the final one, the fire one took me over an hour to do. It took me over an hour to complete, but even afterwards, I never normally if I take something takes me that long to do, I'll get frustrated and I'll have to step away. I never felt that way with these like challenge levels. I kept like, I'm still having fun. I'm getting frustrated, but I'm having fun, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I felt that way also. I was starting to maybe get a little more frustrated than you, but also I'm just not as good at platformers to begin with, so I was having a harder time with them. And I was getting a little turned, but I also knew that I appreciated that those levels existed and that like challenge existed.
Yeah.
But that not every level was like that. Because I think that's like watching you play like Mario Maker and things like that, where you have to do like the perfect run every single time to like beat the level. I'm like, no, that does not appeal to me in the slightest.
But in this case,
but I appreciate the little sprinkles of it in each galaxy that you went to.
The reason I enjoy it is, one, it is like I said, the developer said himself, like, those challenge levels are where the big inspiration was Mario Galaxy, and I felt that in there, but it was its own. There's a difference between inspiration copy paste and inspiration as in we're going to do something similar but our own way, which is what Astrobot is.
Yeah.
So you could see the Mario Galaxy, but you could also see it its own thing. And the thing that felt so nice about them is what, like, each of those single sprints broke up into different sections, and like it took you a while to get past one section, but once you did it, you always got past and you could start practicing the next section. That final gauntlet, it took me so long just to get past the bird that puts his head down. Like, it took me so long just to figure that part out.
That's like a timing thing.
I know.
For sure. You gotta wait for those dudes to go.
It has to be. There's a patience element. There's a quick time event type element. It's fast moving, but at the same time, once you do it, you feel so satisfied. Like, I just did this thing.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Now, here's the big thing. It's already been pretty much hinted at that Team Asobi will be releasing free DLC with new challenge levels and new modes and new bots to find in the next year. So we're not done with Astrobot.
I do have two things to say about Astrobot.
Yeah.
One is a complaint. I think this was my only real complaint I had with the game. And I told you, we talked about this, but I wanted to bring it up. You mentioned like the portals you could find that would create lost levels and extra levels that you could go to. Those were very frustrating for me, not the levels themselves, but you found the portals inside of a level already, and then you either had to beat the level and then redo the level and go back to where the portal was, or you could take the portal instantly, and then you'd have to come back to the same level you found the portal at and start from the beginning and do it all over again. And I wish that had just been, you could have both. I wish you could have found the portal and then it would be like, congratulations, like you found this world, and it opened up the world in the Lost Galaxy and you could go there at any point in time. You didn't have to be sent there right away.
Luckily there were two levels specifically. I remember that they put them like after you got everything, those secrets were at the end. I think that was good. It didn't bother me as much because the ones that weren't at the end, I actually ended up finding after I beat the level and beat the other galaxies. And I was like, oh, I just have to go back for that lost level. Like, that's probably why it didn't bother me as much. And because I played Super Mario World so many times on the SNES. Yeah.
A lot of times where like I would find them halfway through a world and then I would be like, well, it felt like it ruined by flow, right? Like when you're starting a world and you're going through it really well and you're like keeping track of all the bots and the puzzle pieces you're getting and you're like, I've gotten all of them so far, like we're doing great. And you find you're like, oh man, do I jump in the portal? Like, or do I keep going? Okay, I guess I gotta remember where it is and then come back for it later. I don't know. It feels like it just kind of ruined my like flow for me, but that's not a huge complaint. It was just my one little complaint.
You said you had two things to say.
My second one, it's not a complaint, but I feel like we started something and now I want to continue it. I would just like to add that this is yet another game that allows for more flexible space travel than Starfield.
We need a list. We have a list right now. We have Kingdom Hearts. It allows more space travel than all three Kingdom Hearts, actually, more space travel than Starfield. Star Wars Outlaws, No Man's Sky, obviously, Astrobot. That's 6 games that allow more space travel than the game about space travel.
That's all I could think of while I was like traveling from planet to planet, and then like you have when you like click on a planet, you actually do like a fly into the planet, and as you're landing on that world, you can move the controller around and like pick up items and like hit enemies as like you crash land essentially. And so every time I did that, I was like, man, can't even do this in Starfield.
That reminds me, and this is the last 2 points I have, because I have no cons. And then we'll give our official rating. One, the bosses were all sick. There was not a boss I disliked. I enjoyed all those boss fights.
There were a couple bosses I wasn't a huge fan of, but that was just personal preference.
The second thing were the power-ups. Well, none of them were bad. Some were okay, but they were all good for the most part, and some were great.
What was your favorite power-up?
And this is what I was going to bring up. If I had to say anything bad, this is the only thing bad. My favorite power-up was only used once, and that was the mouse power-up.
Oh, the mouse power-up is a very cool one.
But it was one level. It was only one level, and it was so much fun to do. And it's like, well, that's all we have for that. If I had to choose another one, it'd be the time stop one. The slow down time.
That's my favorite.
It was so good, especially because that casino trophy. hitting the jackpot in slow mo. That was so satisfying to do, right?
It was really fun. I I really liked the time stopper one, and especially because it slowed down all the enemies too. I was like, I can do anything. Actually, my fun story about the time stop one is forgetting I had the power to slow down time, and then doing all of those 4 slot machines that you just talked about
You did legit?
without. I did it legit.
Oh, you were. Oh, God. Am.
I legit earned that. And I just, yeah, I had a friend on the call with me, and I was like talking about how frustrated I was that I kept like getting hit by enemies and like having to start this over. And I was like, this is crazy. This is taking me so long. And then it wasn't until after the trophy popped and I walked away where I was like, oh, wait a minute. I had the power to slow down time. I could have done something about this.
I will say probably my favorite challenge level that like I felt other than the final gauntlet, the my favorite challenge level that was just the most fun to do was the slow down time one where you actually had to throw the hourglass every time to slow down time. Like you had a time when to throw it. Like, oh my God, figuring that out was great. The only one I don't like is the damn lava one with the duck.
Curse you, Team Asobi, for creating that monstrosity. I hated every single moment of it.
I don't hate it as much as him, but that one took me so long. And to our good friend Crazy G, who said that this was because of my impatience, Emily can now defend me and say no.
Yeah, I wasn't there when that conversation happened, but no, that level is just the worst. It's so terrible. I hate it.
I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's as bad as you think. It just took me so long to figure out like the motions. Oh man.
I like those duckies.
I let you give your final rating first.
See, this is such a hard one for me. As a platformer, I give it a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Well, yeah, just nearly a 10 out of 10, maybe like a 9.7. It's a perfect platformer. In terms of what I would want from a platformer, it's perfect. So yeah, a high 9 or maybe a 10.
But as a game,
I don't know. As like a whole game, I don't know, high 8, maybe 9.
ew, that feels low. That feels low.
I feel like games are just rated too high. I mean, you didn't even like games that we don't even like that much. I feel like we just give like a 6 or a 7 to like be nice about it. It's an 8 or a 9, which is near perfect. It's hard for me to rate platformers as a 10 because they often, you're right, don't have any story.
But I don't feel like you need a story to be a 10.
For me, it does.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair.
As a platformer, as a game that it is perfectly polished. It is the perfect platformer. It's a 10 out of 10 game. The team did incredible. In terms of like Emily's favorite games of all time, it's not going in a 10 in like the 10s because it didn't make me feel enough. I didn't have enough of a story. But that's just like I like to have a story with my game.
This is going to come as no surprise to anybody. This game has dethroned one of my games in my top 5s. It has dethroned. It is at least, I don't know what's placement in the top 5 yet, but it has knocked BioShock Infinite out of my top 5 and moved to the number 6 spot. Which that game is a deep story. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. For me, this was the perfect game that shows, yes, story is fun and can be good, but you don't need it all the time. Some games just don't need it. This is one of those games that just really didn't need it because the way they handled it. And I mean deep story.
Not all games need a story. I agree with that one.
Yeah.
Like Princess Peach Showtime didn't have a story. It didn't need it. But I prefer games that do have a story.
Yeah, and that's fair, and that's valid. That's valid. For me, at least, it is now my all-time favorite 3D platformer, and that might be the recency bias, but now I'm thinking about my one right under it is Super Mario Sunshine, and I know that game is broken in many ways.
Honestly, and you know, like I'm kind of in a salty place with Nintendo at the moment. We talked about that. I don't think their stories have been very good. I think they've kind of just recently been resting on their laurels and not putting all the effort they can or should be putting into games. Especially when it comes to the Mario. I remember when we were talking about Mario Wonder and you were telling me why it deserves Game of the Year. I'm sure there's more to it, but I distinctly remember you telling me, well, like, Mario tips his hat now when he goes into the warp pipe. And me being like, That's the big
No,
change.
no, no, no. I
That
said the
Mario
animations were
Wonderful.
cool. I said I enjoyed the animations. I don't think that was the reason, but I do remember saying that I enjoyed the
That was one of the
animations.
examples you gave me.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of reflective of where Nintendo's at with like from their platform to platformer. It's like, okay, we added a couple new animations, but like, what do you new characters? I like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the formula is so old at this point, you know?
I understand. From a Sony perspective, though, I think Astrobot is like an actual Game of the Year contender.
Question is though, you talked about getting DLC, and I hope we do get DLC. I'm sure we will. But what does Astrobot? What's the potential for another game? Because they've pretty much used all the IP at this point, right? You rebuilt the PS5. You did it in the other game where you found all the old like what
I forgot
what
they gave examples. I can't remember what it was. It was a pretty big one too. I mean, there was no Square Enix representation. For example, they could throw Square Enix characters in there. I forgot about the exact example they used though. That was a pretty big deal. There's a lot of characters because remember, it's not just Sony IP that they throw in there. They have thrown in like the Yakuza games. That's on everything. The Street Fighter and the Tekken games are on
we did
everything.
have Final Fantasy references in Astro's Playroom.
They did, but they didn't. Neither game had a Kingdom Hearts reference, which that used to
They
be.
didn't have Assassin's Creed in this one.
Oh, that was it. It was an Assassin's Creed character coming potentially to.
Ooh, that would be fun. It was Jacob and Evie. I'd lose my mind.
Anywho, what I was saying, just to recap, or just to finish up, it is now my favorite 3D platformer of all time. Still not my favorite platformer. That's still Celeste. Celeste is just a perfect platformer.
It's my favorite platformer of all time and 3D platformer of all time. I think it is the perfect platformer. I don't think you can get much better than this. But also, I've been very harsh on Mario lately, and I think that could just be, again, this is like, you mentioned the recency bias. Like, it's just new, it's different, and I think Mario. I think we know every gimmick in his book, right? Like, we know everything he's capable of doing, and we know the storyline before it even begins, and we know the ending by the time we start. And so maybe if anything, I hope this just encourages Nintendo to. I hope this inspires Nintendo. I hope they mix it up a little, do something different.
Can I finish this time? Pretty
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. I thought you were done. You said it was your favorite 3D platformer. You said your favorite platformer, and then you stopped.
No, I was starting another sentence.
I'm sorry.
She does this on purpose.
I don't do it on purpose. I swear I really thought
No,
about it.
there's
You said,
actually.
this is my favorite 3D platform, and Celeste is my favorite platformer. And then I started talking. It was the
To be fair, Discord does have a delay, so she has like a 2-second delay. And so that is a valid thing, by the way. So I know she doesn't do it on purpose.
I didn't mean to.
But yeah, no, what I'm trying to say is not, even though I'm a big story guy too. Emily already knows this. I'm a big Kingdom Hearts guy, which is a thing. I'm a huge Persona guy, which is a huge story thing. But I do have a firm belief that not every Game of the Year contender has to have this massive story. Not every 10 out of 10 game has to have this massive story connected, at least from my perspective, for a me thing. I very well think that this will be in the Game of the Year talks.
It should be.
Yeah, I think if I had to put a thing on it right now, the at least 3 games up right now, it would be Black Myth Wukong, it would be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it would be Astrobot would be in the Game of the Year talks right now.
Oh,
We have a long
Star
time to think about that.
I know Star Wars Outlaws isn't going to be on the list,
it's
but
not.
that just bums me out. It just bums me out so much because you can tell the team put so much love and effort into building the Star Wars universe, and the environments are so beautiful. And it just sucks that when it's a game that you can tell had so much love put into it, that people just shout on. It makes me sad.
I think they were very high off of how well Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order did with EA. That they're like, oh, we're gonna get more of that, and it wasn't that, and even though it was a different studio.
Because this game is beautiful, and every single detail, like I said, everything feels so intentional. Every single detail you can tell was crafted with just bummer, just a bummer. But oh well, that happens sometimes.
On that note, next Wednesday, actually on the right day next week, Emily and I will be talking about Nintendo Story Power and how they've been sucking lately. Depending on if I get the Persona 3 DLC too, I might talk about that, but I haven't got it yet, and I haven't really had a real push to do it. I might not get it anytime. I might wait till like next month. You can follow me on Twitch, where I now have a new schedule, which is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, starting this week. And Emily sometimes streams. She thinks about it.
I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I thought about streaming this week. I thought about it and did it, but I didn't do it.
It's the thought that counts.
I want to add talking about talking about next week, Wednesday for podcasts. Please come. I've complained a lot about Nintendo and their lack of story. I want to do it some more with you guys. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. I just, and I think we either could be proven very right, or I could be proven very right or very wrong with what Echoes of Wisdom brings to the table later this month.
Yep. That's it. We're going to go talk to chat. If you're on YouTube right now and you want to watch this again, we're going to be posting this video tomorrow morning at 11:30. That'll be Saturday the 14th. Today's Friday the 13th. God help us.
I should have played a spooky game today.
Actually, yeah, you should have. I didn't either. I should have gotten a $13 tattoo, but I didn't do that either.
What? Why?
Friday the 13th, they have pre-made tattoos for only $13 plus $7 tip for $20. $20 tattoo.
I thought you just meant you want to go like a really nice tattoo parlor and only spend $13. And I was like, well, I wouldn't trust the tattoo you're gonna get out of that experience. But like,
most parlors do that. I had 2 of my 3 tattoos are Friday the 13th tattoos. But other than that, continuing on, follow us on Twitch. If you're on YouTube or on Twitch right now, or if you're watching on YouTube after the live session, come to the live session every other Wednesday. I know this is Friday, but ignore me. Every other Wednesday after the talks, we do the after party, which we do not post live anywhere. The only way to chat with us is by watching the live streams Wednesdays at 7 p.m. CST, unless there's a hurricane currently devastating my homeland, or I guess a blizzard wouldn't knock you out either, so never mind.
Blizzard, we do get a lot of those in the winter.
On that note, I'm jumping over to after party. Okay, bye everyone. Goodbye. Don't do something stupid. Be smart. Bye.